All right, today we're diving into one of the most epic stories in Hindu mythology. We're talking about a tale of impossible odds, incredible cosmic power, and a desperate quest to save 60,000 souls.
So, how did a celestial river end up flowing from a god's hair? Well, it's an incredible story about a desperate king, a, let's just say, very angry goddess, and what seems like a totally impossible task, saving all those cursed souls by literally bringing a river down from the heavens.
So, where does this whole thing start? Well, funny enough, it's not with the river. It all begins with a terrible, terrible mistake, and a curse that ends up dooming an entire generation.
Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off with King Sagara trying to show everyone who's boss. He performs his big horse sacrifice, a huge declaration of his power. But the king of the gods, Indra, gets a little jealous, a little threatened, and he actually steals the horse, hides it away. So Sagara sends his 60,000 sons to track it down. And they do. They find it at the home of the great sage Kapila, who's just sitting there deep in meditation. Well, the sons, they jump to conclusions. They assume he's the thief and start yelling at him, completely disturbing his peace. And that was a fatal mistake. The sage, furious, just opens his eyes and with a single fiery look, poof, all 60,000 of them are turned to ash.
Just like that, 60,000 princes, an entire generation, gone. But here's the thing. It's actually much worse than just death. See, because their bodies were incinerated, there couldn't be any proper funeral rites. That means their souls are now trapped, stuck in limbo, completely unable to achieve salvation.
So what's the solution? The sages say there's only one way out of this mess for these poor souls. The celestial river goddess, Ganga, has to come down from the heavens. Her sacred waters are the only thing pure enough to wash over their ashes and finally set them free. The only problem, bringing a goddess, a river, from the heavens down to earth, well, that was a task no mortal had ever even imagined, let alone accomplished.
This impossible quest becomes a family burden. It's passed down through Sagara's line, generation after generation, and they all fail. Until finally, it lands on the shoulders of his great-grandson, a king named Bhagiratha.
And Bhagiratha's effort, man, it was so massive, so absolutely legendary, that it actually created a new phrase in Sanskrit, Bhagiratha Prayatnam. It literally means Bhagiratha's labor, and people still use it today to describe any huge, determined effort against what seems like impossible odds. And trust me, you are about to see exactly why.
So how does he even start? First, he performs years of really intense penance to the creator god Brahma. And it works. Brahma is pleased, and he grants the wish. He orders Ganga to descend to earth. Awesome, right? Well, not so fast. Brahma gives him this terrifying warning. He says, look, the earth cannot handle this. The sheer force of Ganga's fall will literally shatter the planet. There is only one being in the entire cosmos who can handle that kind of impact, who can act as a sort of cosmic shock absorber, Lord Shiva. So just think about that. Bhagiratha solves one impossible problem, only to be handed an even bigger one. So what does he do? He starts all over again with another penance, this time praying to Shiva, for 1,000 years.
Okay, so after all that, the stage is finally set. But remember, the solution, the river, is also a world-ending threat. And let's not forget about Ganga herself. The powerful river goddess is, well, she is not happy about being told she has to leave her home in the heavens.
And this is really the heart of the problem, right? You've got this huge dilemma. On one side, Ganga coming down is the only way to save those 60,000 souls. But on the other, she is proud, she's furious at being ordered around, and she is planning to use her full power to just smash the earth to pieces on her way down. So the very thing they need for salvation is also the very thing that could cause total annihilation. Talk about high stakes.
So everything now comes down to this one moment, at a single point in the Himalayas. The entire fate of the world is literally hanging in the balance. And after that 1,000-year penance, Lord Shiva agrees to help. He's going to be that cosmic shock absorber.
I mean, just try to imagine this. The sky opens up and a whole celestial river just starts plummeting towards the earth. And Ganga, in her arrogance, isn't just falling, she's aiming right for Shiva. Her plan is to blast right through him, drive him straight into the underworld, and destroy the planet anyway. But Shiva? He just stands there, totally calm, unmoved.
And here it is, the climax of the whole story. Ganga comes down with all of her destructive force. But Shiva doesn't brace for impact, he doesn't put up a shield, he just catches her. In his hair. The whole massive, powerful river gets hopelessly tangled up in the labyrinth of his matted locks. And for the next 1,000 years, she's just lost in there, wandering around, until all that pride and fury is completely gone. And finally, when he's satisfied and in honor of Bhagiratha's incredible devotion, Shiva gently shakes his head, and he lets her out. But not as a destructive torrent. He releases her as 7 gentle, life-giving streams. See, he didn't just stop her. He absorbed her power, he tamed it, and he transformed it.
So you might think this is just an amazing old story, right? But what's incredible is that it doesn't just live in ancient books. This narrative is literally carved into the map and the culture of India, even today.
I mean, this really is a foundational story for the geography of the whole subcontinent. Get this, the main source of the Ganges River is still called the Bhagiratha, in honor of the king. The spot where the river flows into the sea? That's Sagarai Island, and it's thought to be where sage Kapila's hermitage was. The sea itself, the Bay of Bengal, is also called Sagara, named after King Sagara. Even other little episodes from her journey down to the plains are marked on the map. She's also called Jahanavi, after another sage apparently swallowed her for a bit and then let her go. The story is everywhere.
And maybe the most breathtaking legacy of all is this thing. It's a massive rock carving from the 7th century down in Mahabalipuram. It's huge. We're talking 96 feet by 43 feet, and it's an open-air carving that shows the entire cosmic event. The whole story is carved right into these 2 giant boulders.
But what's really interesting is that even this incredible carving holds a bit of a mystery. See, most scholars think the main guy in the carving is Bhagiratha doing his penance. But there's another theory that it's actually Arjuna, the hero from the Mahabharata, also doing penance to Shiva. The fact that there's even a debate just goes to show you how rich and layered these stories are.
Okay, so why are we talking about this now? It's an amazing story for sure, but what can a myth that's thousands of years old possibly have to teach us about the world we live in today? Well, what can an ancient flood myth teach us about modern ecological survival? The answer, it turns out, lies in looking at the story's main symbols through a completely modern lens.
Yeah, as the writer Chitra Padmanabhan pointed out after some really devastating floods in the Himalayas back in 2013, myths have meanings that we ignore at our own peril. And that's so true here. There's some really deep, practical wisdom tucked away in this story, if we're just willing to see it.
Just think back to the core problem in the story for a second. What was it? It was a massive, out-of-control flood of water, a cataclysmic event threatening to wipe everything out. And what was the solution that saved the world? It wasn't a giant wall, it wasn't a dam, it wasn't some incredible feat of engineering. The solution was a god's matted hair. Something organic, complex, and totally natural. So when you look at it from a modern ecological perspective, Shiva's matted hair becomes this powerful metaphor for the dense, tangled root systems of a healthy forest. Just like his hair caught and tamed that raging river, the roots of trees hold the soil together. They stop erosion, and they naturally control the flow of water, slowing it down and preventing those catastrophic floods. This ancient story contains an absolutely timeless lesson in taking care of our environment. Healthy forests are our planet's best and most powerful defense against deadly floods. It's just a powerful reminder, isn't it? That sometimes the oldest stories hold the newest solutions. So it leaves you wondering, if an ancient myth like this holds a key to our planet's survival, what other crucial stories have we forgotten?